Today on the Big 3 in 30, Luka drops 46 points on the Bulls in Chicago.
He throttled the Bulls for 46 points.
The Timberwolves snapped their losing streak against the Warriors.
The Wolves should have won. There's no question about that.
And the Cavs pick up a win over the Magic.
The Cavs won for, I think, a few different reasons, but none was more important than what Donovan Mitchell did.
This is the Big 3 in 30 NBA. The three biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The Big 3 in 30 NBA starts now. Thank you for making the Big 3 in 30 your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. The Lakers went into Chicago last night and Luka Doncic led the way with 46 points in a win over the Bulls. The Kamenetsky brothers recap Luka's big night.
Luka putting in a performance as good as any of those star performances on Monday in Chicago. He throttled the Bulls for 46 points on a hyper-efficient 15 of 25, 8 of 14 from three-point range, seven rebounds, 12 assists, only 3 turnovers. And this was, pretty close to as sublime a Luka game, I think, as you're going to find. A joy to watch from start to finish.
It was part of a night,
by the way, 129-118.
It was part of a night where Luka made some, relatively low key, but still pretty impressive history. He is the fastest Laker to reach 2,000 points as a Laker. It had been George Mikan before, who did it in 72 games. Luka does it in 65. And that is both those guys, by the way, that is stunningly quick work to 2,000 points. And we're going to get into a lot of different elements of Luka's game, but one part of it that really jumped out at me when I was thinking about his box score and thinking about the context of it, he finished the first quarter with 3 turnovers, which is obviously high in one quarter. He ended the game with 3 turnovers, meaning he went the next 3 clean. And between his usage and some of the passes that he threw, which were absolutely insane, just the degree of control that he exercised in this game, there's a lot to compliment with Luka, but that in particular, when I really started thinking about it, because in the first quarter, the only thing that jumped out at me as a potential negative with Luka was taking care of the ball. By the end of the game, that was off the list.
Yeah, and Lakers as a team only turned the ball over 6 times in this game. They took excellent care of the ball as a group. So, if you want to keep Chicago, it was a very good offensive team. They do like to get out, run around on the open floor. Every team wants to take advantage of the Lakers in that way. If you only turn the ball over 6 times, you can cover up a lot of sins defensively. Not the Lakers. Lakers put on a lot of pressure. And all of that, and forced a lot of turnovers for the Bulls, especially in that first half, as they built up a large lead. But you could just see it. Luka gets this look when he knows he's locked in, and he knows that it doesn't matter what you're going to try to do as a defense. It's not going to work because he can see it coming before you can do it. You try those strong doubles, he can find the open man easily. They do not bother him. You'll see him sometimes back up, as he sort of, to create that space. So now the double's coming super high on the floor, a place where other guards may not want to get trapped. Luka's like, come. Let me create this space because I know I can get a pass to wherever I want on the floor. The shot making was incredibly good. Obviously, the 3-pointer was, certainly on point in this game. From an offensive performance, it was just a genuinely masterful exhibition of controlling a game when you're on the floor.
It was interesting too, because JJ's talked recently, and this was in many ways, it was a conversation about Luka, because Luka, along with LeBron and Austin, when he eventually comes back, they have the ball the most. And he was talking about how the passing or lack thereof on certain nights can affect the overall defense, and just the less the ball moves around, the less the other guys feel engaged defensively and like truly.
Absolutely.
But one of the things I noticed tonight, where Luka was on this absolute heater as, you know, a distributor, and again, just some of the passes he made in this game were really next level, whether setting up guys for 3-pointers or cross-court passes, or this baseline wraparound that he threw to Vando for a baseline dunk off a dive.
That one was so good.
It-
That was so good.
One of the things I noticed is a night like tonight, where Luka was truly just deep in his bag on all counts offensively, it picked up his own energy defensively. Like the third quarter against the Bulls, which was basically the only rough part of this game for the Lakers defensively, Chicago was hitting everything from outside. One of the guys, though, that actually was contesting threes the most during that period was actually Luka. Like I rewatched part of that third quarter as things were falling apart. And one of the things that jumped out at me was Luka making some of the most consistent effort to get out to those shooters. So it just felt like Luka was just completely energized in putting on a show and wanting to lead this win. And similar to how other guys touching the ball via the pass can raise their own defensive engagement just because they feel more involved, it felt like it raised Luka's own defense as the guy doing the passing.
When he's, I think it's just, some of it's just a function of feeling dominant, of being locked in, of, you know, that first half offensively, the Lakers offense was moving and scoring very effectively. LeBron, who finished with 24, had 20 of them in the first half. So, you know, he was dominant early. Luka was dominant. Rui got off to a really good start that sustained itself throughout the game. We'll talk about him before we're done. And, you know, that just, you know, raises everybody's energy like that. You know, I mentioned before that the Lakers constantly forcing turnovers from Chicago, jumping in passing lanes, you know, knocking, you know, poking the ball away, a lot of really active hands, creating easy offense for them in the other way. And, you know, it's so rare. It seems rare, at least, to have these games where it feels like the Lakers are the team that is generating the easy offense. It is really nice to see, you know, defense turn into offense, breaking up plays, grabbing rebounds, securing the boards, and just making their lives easier to go play on the other end.
Yeah, I mean, look, Chicago is a terrible defense, so it helps the Lakers in terms of generating their own cleaner offense. But I will say they are a good offensive team.
Right.
So what the Lakers did defensively against this team, in that respect, I actually think speaks to something that they were doing well, because while scoring against the Bulls may not be the most impressive feat in the world, holding them down to a reasonable number actually is.
Well, it's scoring, but what I was getting at though is it's scoring. It's not scoring in the half court against the Bulls. It's how much they generated offense off of turnovers, off of busting possessions from a good offensive team to go get points on the other end.
Yeah, and you know, Chicago, they average about 14 turnovers a game. The Lakers turn them over 15 times, so it's basically normal for them, but the Lakers were very good at capitalizing on those turnovers and just putting an already bad defense on its heels. And they scored 23 points off those turnovers, which is a really good night. And the defense for the Lakers, obviously we need to see a longer, more sustained sample size, but it is starting to look at the very least more. This is going to sound, I guess it is a backhanded compliment, but I think the audience is going to understand what I mean because they've been watching the opening, 40-ish games. It's becoming competently passable. And if your baseline is competently passable and you can get your offense to where everybody expected it would be for opening this season, and Austin Reeves will certainly help with that when he comes back. If you have a really high-end offense and somewhere between a competently passable and maybe solid plus, and then for like the last 5 minutes of a game, very good defense, you can do something with that. Like that is a workable formula.
The Lakers, they've got 3 really good players, like really good.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 NBA. The shorthanded Timberwolves beat the shorthanded Warriors Monday to snap a 5-game losing streak for Minnesota. Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon recaps the victory.
All right, so first, who didn't play? For the Wolves, it was just Anthony Edwards, and of course, TJ Shannon's still out with the foot injury. For the Warriors, I guess it's more about who did play. No Steph Curry, sitting on the second night of a back-to-back. He's got a bit of a knee injury, but back-to-back. Draymond Green, same thing, back injury, back-to-back. Kuminga's not been playing. He's got the trade request out there, so he didn't play anyway the other day. And then you've got DeAnthony Melton, Al Horford, both of whom are not playing both sides of back-to-back. So they both played in Sunday's win over the Wolves and did not play. So that's 5. And then you obviously Jimmy Butler with the ACL injury has now been out for about a week. So this is a shell of a Warriors team with only really 2 or 3 regular rotation guys played regular rotation minutes. Buddy Hield off the bench. Quentin Post, who played a little off the bench for them the other day in the rotation. Pat Spencer is on the fringe of the rotation. He led them in minutes with 34 in this game. Obviously, Podziemski played a lot for them. So that's how you only score 83 points in an NBA game, is you roll out the sort of lineup that the Warriors rolled out in this one. So obviously the Wolves should have won. There's no question about that. It was still a slog early in this game. And I want to start with my 3 big things. And number one is the turnover problems, which is what led to such a slow start. It was 21-20 Minnesota at the end of the first quarter. So this was on pace to be an 84-80 game, and the Warriors barely outpaced that 80 points. The Wolves offense figured it out late second quarter, but it took until the late second quarter before they figured it out. On Sunday, Minnesota had 16 first half turnovers en route to 26 total turnovers by the team in a, massive blowout loss to the Warriors. In this game, the Timberwolves still finished with 22 turnovers overall in this game. 22 turnovers in a game that they ended up winning by 25. That's how anemic the Warriors offensive, I don't even want to use the word attack, how anemic their offense was. The Wolves also, again, shot the ball well. They didn't shoot the ball very well on Sunday, but it was fine enough to win had they not turned it over a billion times. Remember, they just shot the ball 17 less times in Golden State. Well, guess what? They still shot the ball 14 less times than the Warriors in this game, in part due to Warriors' offensive rebounding. They were better than the Wolves on the offensive glass, and there were a couple of possessions that Golden State got 1,000 cracks at it seemed like. But more problematically, the turnovers. Minnesota, again, with 22 turnovers. Julius Randle, the primary culprit, with 6. You had Dante DiVincenzo with 4. McDaniels and Gobert each had 3, and so did Naz Reid. So that was a massive problem, and especially early in this game. I thought Julius Randle got off to a really slow start. I thought that DiVincenzo got off to a really slow start. He came around in the second half. We'll talk more about that later. But the overall flow of the offense was completely off. And obviously, Anthony Edwards didn't play, right? So that's a big reason for it. You take out the guy that soaks up most of your offense, both from a scoring and a creation standpoint, and things are going to change. I mean, he played Sunday, and it was a problem, and he was part of the problem, which is uncharacteristic of Ant. And it continues to be really the only thing that holds this offense back. And I know that there are frustrating games, but you look up, and this is still easily a top 10 offense in the NBA. And turnovers are the one thing that they just consistently struggle with. Some of the other things, there's peaks and valleys. That's just how this thing works. But turnovers continue to be a problem. And that's really more of an attention to detail. It's not like the way that they're trying to play. It's not like they're playing at a ridiculously fast pace and they're accepting the risk of turnovers because they're pushing the pace. That's not what they're doing. They're just lazy passes, passing to ghosts, waiting for, guys cut, and then you pass to where they were. There's always a couple of those a game, it seems like, where you're throwing the ball into the first or second or third or fourth or eighth row. That stuff happens too often for this team. It's very frustrating. And that kind of leads me into my second big thing. And we'll stay here for a minute. And that's the difference that having Juice off the bench makes. Bones Highland and Naz Reid were both really good in this game. Bones had 3 points, I think, in Sunday's game. Naz Reid had 0 points in Sunday's game. Only squeezed the trigger, I think, on 4 shots in that one. In this game, they combined to score 32 points. 32 points on 12 of 21 shooting, which we'll take any day of the week. And also 6 of 11 outside the arc. Just night and day difference. And focusing on Bones here for a minute, Bones Highland only had 1 turnover. And he was on the court for 25 minutes. He had 5 assists. He got off 9 shots himself. And there's a downside to Bones being as aggressive as he is. And I think I talked about this on yesterday's show after Sunday's game. I talked about it after the last loss when the Wolves lost on, was it Thursday of last week? Was the last time that they played, where Bones comes in and he's never seen a shot he didn't like. And as soon as he has the ball and can see the rim, it's going up. That's not always a good thing. It's not always a good thing. However, when your team is just turning the ball over like crazy and you don't have Ant and there's no other scoring juice on the floor and Jaden McDaniels is playing passively as he was in the first half of this game and Randall's turning the ball over a bunch as he was in the first half and really throughout this game, then fine. And that's the difference that bench juice makes is how I'm going to phrase it. And I'm not saying Bones Highland is the solution based on that. I think we've seen a lot of evidence in the last 10, 12 days to suggest he's not. But I think it underscores the trade deadline's in 9 days, a week from Thursday. I think it underscores the importance of shoring up the Timberwolves' depth. Hopefully Ant doesn't miss more than 4 games or so the rest of the way. He's going to get close to that threshold for all NBA teams and awards and all that stuff. Which isn't the only reason, but it's something to keep in mind. They're going to need an additional boost in depth. And if they think that Bones is the guy or the risk reward of adding somebody is, and we'll talk more about this on tomorrow's show. We'll talk about some more Kobe White discussion, like some of that. There's certainly risk in any move you make, but is the risk reward of adding a guy like a Kobe White or a similar name and salary figure to the rotation greater and the acquisition cost too high versus the ceiling of what Bones Highland can give you plus Naz Reid when he's playing well? I think this game in particular more underscores how important that juice off the bench is. And yeah, it was even more important because Anthony Edwards did not play, but they still got double figures. They still got 14 or more points out of 4 of their 5 starters in this game. Like they did need the bench juice, but it's important when Ant does play. Right. As we saw Sunday, they didn't get any. Those guys combined for 3 points. And in this game, they combined for 32 points on 21 shots. And Bones Highland specifically 5 assists and only 1 turnover. So it underscores just how important getting more of a lift from the bench is. And also whether or not that's Bones or someone else. And would I have more faith in Kobe White doing that? And I'm using him as an example because he's a realistic name that would fit the Bones role. He's a reasonable comp for Bones Highland. Obviously different guy, but like that type of a score first combo guard player, or anybody else, right? Like insert another, obviously a much bigger move would be a Colin Sexton type move, right? But how important that particular person would be to what the Timberwolves are trying to do is underscored by the performance of Bones and to a lesser extent, I think Naz Reid in this game. having that shot creation, having somebody that can I don't know, lubricate an otherwise stagnant, kind of creaky offense at times is very important. And Bones in this game was great. Nas was very good. I thought both of them were really important to the Timberwolves extending what was a very precarious lead in the second quarter.
It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Big 3 and 30 NBA. Donovan Mitchell dominated with 45 points in a Cavs win over the Magic Monday, and Locked On Cavs host Danny Cunningham has more after the win.
The Cavs beat the Orlando Magic 114-98 inside of Rocket Arena on Monday night. And this one, the Cavs won for, I think, a few different reasons, but none was more important than what Donovan Mitchell did. So Donovan finished the night with 45 points. I thought it was one of the best performances he's had this year. I know it wasn't his high point total, like he's had better games statistically, but just the way that he has played over these past two games against the Orlando Magic, to me, has been really, really impressive. And he scored 45 points, partially because the first half in this game, he was unbelievable. Like, his first half statistics were outrageous. So ultimately, he had 45 points on 15 of 25 shooting. In the first 24 minutes, Mitchell had 26 points on 11 shots. Like, he was making everything. He was getting to wherever he wanted to be on the floor. He looked like one of the best players in basketball, which he is. He is one of the best players in basketball, but he was unstoppable against an Orlando team that they're not elite defensively. They're not what they have been in recent seasons on the defensive end of the floor, but they're still a good defense. Like, that is still a defense that is more than capable of giving trouble to a lot of guys. And Donovan Mitchell has been immune to that over the past couple of games, because if you combine these two games, Saturday night in Orlando and Monday night in Cleveland, Donovan Mitchell scored 81 points across two games against the Orlando Magic. Like, he absolutely dominated them in a way that you just don't see all that often, especially when it's against the same opponent in back-to-back games. And he was able, I think the common theme between Monday and between Saturday in Orlando is Donovan against Orlando, like, they have no answer for him. He was able to get wherever he wanted to be on the floor, whenever he wanted to be there. And over the course of these two games, the Magic, and that's why I do think too, this is a cool setup, playing the same team back to back, because, like, I do think that we saw the Magic try and make some adjustments to try and slow down Donovan Mitchell. They tried, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 different defensive coverages with Donovan on the floor for the Cavs, and none of them worked. Like, you could see in real time the Magic trying to figure out how to solve this puzzle of what all the challenges that Donovan Mitchell can present to a defense, and none of it worked. I really think the only thing that separated him from having back-to-back 45-point games, again, he had one on Monday, he had 36 on Saturday. The only thing that separated that was he was just missing shots in the first half of that game on Saturday. Like, he was getting to a spot, the ball it felt like go halfway down the net and pop back out in that first half. And then the second half, he was obviously incredibly at 27 points, and then he carries that over. I mean, if you take the second half on Saturday, where he had 27 points, and then the first half on Monday, where he had 26 points, that's 53 points across 48 minutes of basketball. It's really, really impressive stuff, what we're watching Donovan Mitchell do. And after the game, I thought it was really interesting what Kenny Atkinson had to say. I asked him just point blank, I opened up the press conference. The very first question I asked him was, so what do you think of Donovan Mitchell tonight? Just because he put forth this incredible performance, this incredible effort, and Kenny like almost laughed at it he did laugh at it, because it's just like, it is so impressive what this guy has continuously done for the Cavs this season. And we asked the question a lot about, where would the Cavs be without Jalen Tyson, or where would the Cavs be without player X? Without Donovan Mitchell, the Cavs would be nowhere near where they are right now. Like, I don't want to say they'd be one of the worst teams in basketball, because that's not true, but go look at what the Milwaukee Bucks are right now. And I do think that is, like, if you pull Giannis off of the Bucks and Donovan off of the Cavs have a better roster than what the Bucks have, sans Giannis. But I think they'd probably be in that area record-wise, considering all of the injuries that they have. Now, if they're fully healthy without Donovan, that's a different story. I think they'd be better than that. But if you, just take Donovan away and keep everything else the same, the Cavs would be in some pretty deep trouble. So to watch him, and I don't know that this was necessarily like Donovan putting the Cavs on his back or willing this team to a win, because a lot of other things did go well. Like, the Cavs played well in a lot of other aspects, but watching Donovan just be able to effortlessly take over a basketball game and do it as efficiently as he did. It's not like in the first half where he had 26 of his points. It's not like he took 20 shots to get there. I mean, 26 points on 11 shots is insane efficiency. And that's what he was doing. And that's what the Cavs have needed at times. And Kenny Atkinson compared him to Dwayne Wade after the game, which is not the first time Donovan's been compared to Wade. Now, there are certainly some differences in their games. And I do wonder, what would prime Dwayne Wade look like in today's NBA, where the 3-point shot is so much more important than it was when Wade was in his prime back in the 2000s. I do think he'd be a different player. Not saying he'd be better, not saying he'd be worse. I think he would have developed himself into a better shooter from the outside than he ultimately was. But Donovan kind of is, and he's smaller than Dwayne. Dwayne, I do think, is a couple inches taller than Donovan, but he kind of is Dwayne Wade with a jump shot. From beyond the arc, I should say. Dwayne Wade was a very good mid-range jump shooter, but he was not a great 3-point shooter. And Donovan is a much better 3-point shooter than Wade was. But one of the things that really just stands out to me watching Donovan play, and I thought it was very prevalent in both of these games, there are not guards in the NBA that are as explosive as Donovan is. His ability to get to point A, or from point A to point B, I should say, with the explosion that he has and the quickness that he has and the power and the strength, those are the type of attributes that I'm just not sure how many other guys his size have. And that, to me, is one of the things that when you're watching it, and I think it's a little bit different when you're watching it live versus on TV, but even on TV, there are some moves that you can see. It's just how does he do that? Right? Think about the windmill gather that he had that totally turned Paolo Banchero around on Saturday. Paolo was facing the wrong way, he was a defensive back trying to cover a corner post route and just got his hips flipped, and it was, curtains at that point. And I think he was going to have another one of those on Monday night, but Wendell Carter Jr. got called for a defensive 3 seconds, so it just negated everything. But it's what he's able to do in those moments and the way he's able to attack the basket and finish through contact and these tough finishes while also being this awesome shooter from the outside. And he has become, I think, a better basketball player at this point in his career than he's been at any other point. And if you've listened to the show, this was something I thought would happen during this season. Now, I thought a lot of I was wrong about a lot of things with this Cavs team. Thought they'd be a lot better than they have been. But I feel very good about the way I thought things would play out for Donovan, because he has been incredible. And he is somebody that, especially with the Cavs winning more frequently, in my opinion, should start to hear his name in MVP talks. I'm not saying that he should win the award, but I do think had the Cavs taken care of business in some of these just absolute stinkers that they've lost, think about the game against Utah or the game against Golden State, some of those games that they've lost, if their record was a little bit better, I really do think Donovan would be firmly in the MVP conversation, especially when you consider some of the injuries to other guys. Because if you look up and down the NBA, I don't think there are 5 guys right now that are having a better season than Donovan Mitchell. I think it's a travesty he's not starting the All-Star game, and I think nights like this one on Monday night really do display that he is, we could have the debate, and I don't want to necessarily get into that. He is unquestionably a top 10 player in basketball right now, and I think he's closer to 5 than he is 10. And I cannot sit here and say that there are 5 guys definitively having a better individual season than what Donovan Mitchell is doing right now. He has been remarkable for the Cavs all season long. Monday night was just another example. And the Cavs won a game against a good, not great, but a good team in Orlando, in a game that I look at as another impressive win, because it's not just that the Cavs are winning these basketball games, it's the way they're winning these basketball games. And I think that's a really important thing to think about and to talk about, because last year we saw a different Cavs team. And I do think that the Cavs can get back to who they were last year, but I actually think it's more important the identity they're building now.
That's all for today's Big 3 in 30 NBA. If you follow football or college sports, the Big 3 in 30 has shows for the biggest news in the NFL and on campus going up every weekday, just like this one. Just search the Big 3 in 30 NFL or the Big 3 in 30 college, wherever you're listening or watching now. Thanks again for tuning in to the Big 3 in 30 NBA.